And then kind of going to the next step of that would be, which of those skills, and you kind of talked, you've done some stuff since we've had the observation, but what some of those skills are you looking to further develop? And then what will you do to develop those skills?
Well, once the kids, and I do feel like they have a decent understanding of those trig ratios, and, you know, just opposite to hypotenuse, for example, with sine, we are now using those to find lengths of things. And so we've been doing a lot of pencil paper in class, but I think to really make it stick, I want to take them back and maybe go outside and find something that's kind of big and use a trig ratio to find the length of it. You know, excuse me, I've seen some problems where maybe we have like an open body of water, but we could use some rope and make our triangle, and then, you know, get our right angle, and actually use the measurements. And I need to figure out where I want to go measure and what, but I think that will help them see why they need to use those ratios and be able to apply what they're learning for this group of kids especially, and I think all kids really, putting things in a real context helps it make more sense. Absolutely. And so I need to start doing that, or need to do that again with this group. But right now we're starting to go, okay, now the fun part, let's measure some lengths with these ratios, let's put them to work, not just, you know, learn them for the sake of learning what those words are, so.
Right. And then some, you know, kind of some things that I guess I noticed through the lesson that aren't necessarily what I would consider maybe a strength or weakness or improvement area, but things that some questions that I kind of came up with as we went on. But if you had the opportunity to teach this lesson again to the same group, so those 6 students, what would you do differently and why? And I know you've kind of touched a little bit on it, but maybe some more in-depth things that you could see doing.
Well, I think it'd be interesting to give the kids an opportunity to make up a problem. I think that, you know, in terms of, you know, Bloom's taxonomy, creating a problem would, I think, just raise the level of thinking for them. I think also to, you know, maybe give them an opportunity to plan like a little, even like a little skit or something. You're the hypotenuse, I'm the, you know.
Right.
And maybe that's just my brain, I don't know. But, you know, something where it does involve that creative element, I think will help stick. And definitely the assessment part. That's something that for me, I'm always, you know, because we teach, you know, like 5, 6 preps.
Right.
Because we're a small school, but we love it. It's sometimes hard to get that, but to really inform my instruction and you know, what are the things that I really need to make sure and address with this kid and that kid, those exit tickets, I need to do a better job with that. I think maybe having, you know, like I used meter sticks. I think if I had something that was maybe a bigger piece of like just some lath or whatever, just thin wood, I think maybe have the triangle pre-made might be helpful, just so that it slows my setup, I think, or not slows, quickens my setup, sorry, would be helpful. Okay. So, yeah, some of those things.
And then as you go through this lesson and kind of reflect back on it, what pleased you with it and what maybe concerned you as far as the lesson in general? What were some, I guess, positives basically, and some things that you've kind of talked about, some things that you could do to make it better, but what really went well or what pleased you about the lesson itself?
Well, first of all, by having the kids physically have to move to locations, I really was able to quickly assess the misconceptions they had about sine, cosine, and tangent, especially with, you know, what is opposite, what is adjacent. That there was a misunderstanding there, and I could see as we talked it through that the kids were making that correction in their heads, and so that was helpful. I think early on, just and so it's a formative assessment. I think that I was doing there. The second thing is just having that conversation about and using the terms, I think helped the kids start to incorporate those terms into their own vocabulary. And I think a lot of times with math, those are words that they don't use except in the math classroom. And so that was really helpful. And I could see just, you know, the repetitions with the words starting to make those concepts stick a little bit better in their heads. So I guess those things I was pleased with.
And I guess the last question and the last, I guess, comment first is that I noticed through the lesson that you did a lot of variety of instruction. So you were, you know, when we talk standard 4 about using strategies to deliver instruction for multiple needs, you had not just the physical, but then you were doing the verbal. You also had the students come up onto the board and do some of the writing aspect of it too, to get the language and stuff like that. So taking, I guess, those 3 aspects, what do those results mean to you as you move forward?
Well, I think if I had been teaching this 20 years ago when I was just starting out, I don't think I would have brought in the live action as much. I think that my growth as a teacher has been to bring in different ways of learning. I think I would have done it much more traditionally and been just pencil paper up on the board, not getting the kids interacting and as involved as what I did. And so I do think I've grown as a teacher to be able to bring in those different elements, and I'm much more comfortable with being a goofball sometimes, because, you know, with that group of kids, part of the motivation is that you always have to bring that energy. And, you know, now that I'm as old as I am, I'm like, I'm this age, I don't care, you know, what people think so much anymore. And I do think that engages the kids in a way, because there's some joking, there's some humor that probably 20 years ago I'd have been much more serious about it all. And I do think, you know, as a teacher develops, you get more comfortable bringing those elements in. And, you know, like just you had talked earlier about district goals, the writing I try to bring in all the time, because that's one of our goals, is reading and writing.
Right.
And so I think, again, 20 years ago, I don't think I would have thought of that. I would have only thought of the math aspects. And even the vocabulary, you know, that's something that we talk about, direct instruction. I may not have been aware of the number of repetitions kids need to really get those words ingrained. So, you know, I do think our professional development is really working well, and just I feel like some of those strategies we've been learning I've incorporated them into just what I do on a daily basis. So, yeah.
I guess the next step for us would be looking at kind of our professional development plan and going through that, and we'll kind of touch base here as the year's kind of winding down and get that set up. So,
Okay.
All right. Do you have any questions for me?
Did you think there was anything that I could have done better? I mean, just from your perspective, you know, I guess things that you had concerns.
I guess the
about?
one thing that I kind of talked about with the areas of improvement was the classroom management. Just again, like you say, I think it was more the beginning time, just because, especially when you have 6 individuals that want to they want to actually come in and be engaged. They want to not necessarily learn, but they want to be listening. They want to be engaged with you, and kind of having that downtime, I think, maybe slowed the progression of them wanting to be maybe as interested. If you would have had it, you know, set up, and they walked in and they're like, okay, you know, get right into it type of thing. So that's probably maybe the only area that I really saw, and you've addressed that, I think, enough to be able to move on from there. So.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you.